Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the interview room. We'll give it a couple of minutes, let folks get in here. I hope you can hear the music.
It's fading in and out a little bit, but thanks for being here, everybody. It's great to see you all. Hope you're having a wonderful Monday evening wherever you are. Or maybe it's early morning, depending on what part of the world you're in. But thanks for being here. We're excited to have you here.
Isn't she adorable on a Monday evening? Oh, my goodness. My goodness. It's so great to see everybody, like Karen just mentioned, on this Monday evening. It's we're so humbled that you would spend some time with us, and we want to always thank our mods and our subscribers, our Patreon members, our YouTube channel members. Each and every one of you are just absolutely amazing. Hopefully today was an amazing day for you. It certainly was for Karen and I, and now it's going to be an amazing evening as we pick up on part 2 with Mr. Hunter on the porch in Tennessee. Karen, how long ago was this, by the way?
So this interview with Hunter was late June, early July 2021, just a couple of weeks after Summer Wells went missing or was reported missing June 15th, 2021. So it's been 4 years.
4 years. Can you guys all believe that? I mean, have we, every single one of us that have been here from the very beginning to help understand what had gone on and what's taking place in the Summer Wells case. I mean, there's still information coming in, and you just don't know, right? Hopefully somebody will step up and do the right thing. And last night I reached out internally, obviously, to Hunter. Hopefully he will watch last night's program and hopefully tonight and realize there's no judgment on the table. Literally, we are hoping that you, Hunter, will step forward and provide additional information about things that perhaps you may or may not have been holding. That said, Karen, honey, where did we leave off last night, and where are we headed here, you think, in conversation?
Okay, so if you're just joining us, and if you weren't with us last night for part 1, I'm going to do a quick recap of what we covered last night and where we're headed tonight. So we're going back to the porch interview. We call this the porch interview that Chris did with Hunter and his mom, Allie, if you recall. Also in there as well was Allie's grandma. I think we call her Grambun. I don't know if we know her name. And Allie's friend, Leslie.
Grambun?
I don't remember her name. I apologize, but I can't remember. Anyway, so this is the group that was sitting at the table outside of Allie's home in Tennessee, and Chris is interviewing Hunter. Now, let's just kind of do a quick recap of what Hunter told Chris in that interview. And I should say, the reason we're going back to this interview that we did 4 years ago is because yesterday was the 4-year anniversary of the disappearance of Summer Wells. And there have been no arrests. Authorities have not made any new statements at all about the case. And so we're going back and we're picking this apart, and Chris is giving us his insights. Now with 4 years on, we all have this collective body of knowledge of what happened post that time. And so we just thought it would be really helpful for all of us to kind of walk back through the information and what Hunter told Chris. So to
Yeah,
recap,
and back then, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but and back then, I mean, we sat on that porch. What, this was maybe 2 weeks after she went missing,
something like that. Yeah.
because we felt back then, 4 years ago, that Hunter held a tremendous amount of information. That's why you only see a couple of interviews with the parties involved here. One of them was with Hunter, one is with Candace, and one is with the lady from the church,
Well, and you had an audio interview
with Dawn.
with Don Wells,
Yep,
Summer's father. Mhm.
exactly. And so, but you and I have always felt from day one that this is a very critical interview, and what we wanted to do was revisit it, as Karen's saying. So that's what I wanted to say.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So if you weren't with us last night, we walked through again what Hunter told Chris as far as the timeline on June 15th, when he spent the last few hours of what ended up being Summer's life, we think, we don't know for sure, that last day. And here's what he said. He said that Candace came to his house to pick him up. He had permission from his mom, Allie, to go with them. They first were going to go fishing, but it turned out to be swimming at the swimming hole, which is in Warrior State Park. Okay, but here's the sequence of events. So Candace comes over, she gets him. They go to the hospital to pick up Grandis, who was getting treatment for some kind of injury on her knee. Then they go to Walgreens, where they dropped off Grandis's prescription from the doctor. Okay. And then while they're in line in Walgreens, Don calls Candace. Hunter overhears part of that conversation. Candace hangs up. Hunter tells us that he continued to ask Candace more questions about what Don was saying on the phone. Okay. From there, they go to the watering hole, the swimming hole, which is in Warrior State Park. After that, and then during that time, Hunter recounts for Chris, he sees Summer under the water, or he hadn't seen her. He's a little unclear, but he knew something was going on with her. Maybe she was drowning, whatever. He runs in, pulls her up out of the water. He recounts all that. A short time later, so that's Candace, Grandis, Hunter, and Summer. And they drive from the watering hole. They go to the hippie house, which is where Candace buys vape products. Then they go to a Sonic drive-through and they get slushies. From there, they go to the Priceless grocery store. That's where they got those milk jugs that we saw Summer pictured with in the back seat of Candace's vehicle. And then Hunter is dropped off back at his house. So that's kind of where we ended yesterday on that video. And that's where we're going to pick it up today on part 2.
Great recap and summary. So we're going to jump right into this. But before we get in there, just out of curiosity, what do you guys think in the chat so far? You know, what's your impression so far about where Hunter is, and do you guys think he will come forward now that he's 19 years old and potentially give us additional information, or do you think he's going to hold out because still he's under the pressure of his father? What say you? Go ahead and put it into the chat. And you know, this is an interesting thought as well before we get back into the interview. Maud doesn't think he will. I hope so. Janelle, I think he'd hold out. Grace, PG, the cemetery needs to be checked. You know, that's an interesting theory as well, right? That's been floating around, that she was reburied over a burial, which would be very, very interesting in of itself. Never underestimate when somebody wants to get rid of something. Danny says his father's still threatening him. They don't believe he will, but Pink says yes. Pink Peacock, yes. Unified Summer, oh, hi. Uh, a laugh a day doesn't think so. Verdi, I don't think he will. So there's a lot of
Yeah, a lot of people don't think that Hunter would come forward at this point.
a lot of mixed emotion here, which is it's a 50-50, right? Or maybe 70-30 that say no, 30% say potentially. So I'm in the crowd that I'm going to hope he does, but I'm a 60-40 as well. That his father is going to continue to influence him, but I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, and I hope he does step forward and give us a call, because there's a lot of rabbit holes again starting to reopen, and that people don't need to go down, because it just it confuses the totality of things. So if we take a step back and we look at the big picture here, rule number 1: 5-year-olds don't disappear. And when this type of situation occurs, law enforcement was on the scene almost immediately, at least shortly thereafter. Maybe there's a delay in, I think we all know there was a huge delay in the reporting, the call, 911 call is way off, et cetera. So we don't know how much time was ahead. The suspect had an advantage, whoever that may be. And some of the theories that have floated around, she could have walked off. That's one of the theories that was floated. And if you've watched my videos on this case, I went through the 3 possibilities way back 4 years ago, and all 3 have been floated around in the 4 years. There's not a definitive theory. One of them now that's refloating is this idea of, maybe there was somebody waiting, there at the property. And then that becomes a big, huge question. Was Don home? And if so, who is this somebody? And now we have Hunter again reminding us that, no, Don called Candace. And so that's setting it up for the next piece of this puzzle, where Hunter is now going to finish explaining the totality of that piece of the puzzle here. So here we go.
Her grandma done bought it for her in the store.
Okay, so from there, now you have this, they come back to the car. Where's the milk come in?
The milk. Oh, when they had to put everything in the bed of the truck. Like the back of the truck.
Mm-hmm.
I call it a truck bed because it is a truck bed.
Okay. But there's a picture of Summer leaning against the milk bottles.
Yeah, they put them there. Well, I think I put them there in the middle because there's no room on the other side of me.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I put them there because she was sitting by the window, and then...
Was she sleeping?
No, she wasn't even sleeping at the time.
Okay.
I just set them in the middle because if they were to fall and spill, it would be on me, and I don't feel like cleaning up no truck mess.
Okay. It looks like she's against the door, though, in that picture.
I wasn't there when that picture was took.
Oh, okay. When did they take that picture? Do you know?
I have no idea.
I believe the one with the milk jugs was sitting right here in front of my house, because that's exactly how that baby was before they left.
Okay.
That dog in the background is barking that other dog. See where Allie's fingers are? You see that other dog? They had this little yapper, and you can hear him in the background. But this is exactly where we left off, with Allie saying Summer's in the car right out front.
Well, she also said, I think she said that just to cover her butt, because she wanted to make sure that you knew that Summer was alive when they dropped Hunter off and Candace left her house.
Right.
According to Allie, that's what she said.
Yeah, no, exactly. And we talked about that at length, remember? About is she got a cover play here, or is she selling soggy bread, or what the heck is going on here with her? And by the way, tonight, again, just just a reference here. We're not focusing on Allie. We're not focusing on Grandis there or Grand Bun. We're ignoring those two. And the reason for that is we want to pay very careful attention to what Hunter is saying and how he's saying it. Okay, guys, just as a reminder.
Well, when you were in the car, where'd they put the milk?
Well, they gave it to me.
They gave it to you.
Not not to keep, but
to put it away.
Yeah.
And where did you put it?
You see how naive he is when I said they gave it to you, and he responds, not to keep. Okay. Meaning, he takes everything somewhat of in a literal sense. And so he bounces around a lot of times, and you have to keep refocusing him. And, when I've spoken to many witnesses like that, sometimes they'll go off into left field and then they'll go into right field. And young men like this at 15 who think they're streetwise, they've played the system, et cetera, up here in their head, and they're playing tough guys. You got to roll with it. Sometimes they're going to tell you the truth. Sometimes they're going to not tell you the truth. They're going to lie. And so it's our responsibility somehow to weed through that, right? It's like sifting. You throw a bunch of rocks in, you sift, and then all of a sudden there's a diamond at the bottom.
I had it sitting on my lap until we got out the car.
Got it. And out here?
Yeah, out here.
Okay.
And she pulled up like your truck now, like where it's at right now.
Right.
But the opposite around.
Got it. So it's facing that way.
Yeah.
And you're getting out on this side. And where do you put the milk?
I set them in the middle because Summer had to.
Now, the interesting thing about that is he uses plural. I set them in the middle. And there were multiple jugs of milk. So is that a true statement? I don't know yet. We'll see.
Did she even get out the car, or did I?
Sure.
I thought she got out the car too. I don't remember that.
Okay. At some point, how did the milk bottles get on the other side of her? Do you know?
I have no idea then, because she said that she was sleeping on the door. But when I got out the car, she wasn't even at the door. She was in the middle.
Was she sleeping on you?
Nah.
Was she asleep?
I didn't even see her asleep. I just got out the car because she wanted to talk to her.
Okay. Got it.
About that thing for that Friday, the water park.
Got it. But where's Summer?
She was still in the middle. I wasn't really paying attention to her, to be honest.
Okay. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, that's cool.
I wasn't even paying attention at that point. I just wanted to go inside. I just wanted my girl to come over for a bit.
As you can imagine, there is so much going on around us. The dog, the popping, the pizza we just ate, and that's kind of one of the snacks that came with the pizza that had chocolate on it, and then I'm trying to focus and listening on what Hunter is trying to and wanting to say, but this is chaos that's going on right now, and it really helps to understand that this is the third time Hunter had been interviewed. He'd been interviewed twice by the FBI, and now me. I was the third interview. And so he kind of had a little rhythm. And, I picked that up pretty clearly. And his consistency was there at times. But then, I could tell, he's, selling deflated tennis balls. Okay. I mean, it's not my first rodeo. So I'm not, saying that and I think you guys all understand, I'm not sitting there going, okay, yeah, keep selling because I'm buying. Okay. There's a lot happening. And anybody that's ever been in this position knows what I'm talking about. When you get to a homicide scene, for an example, there are over 365 decisions they estimate that has to be made within the first 10, 15 minutes of your arrival. And guess what? They all have to be correct. Or a good defense attorney will eat you alive on the stand. So I have this thought process. I know where I'm headed in the interview, and I'm trying to see if we get a responsive, are we on the same track here?
That's the whole point.
Is Summer hurt by this point, you think,
I don't
from the
think
water?
so. I mean, she could have been. I mean, I wasn't really paying attention to her.
Then what happens when you get out of the car?
When I get out the car, when I get out the car, I go to the front because she had to hand me that other vape that she gave me.
Got it.
And then I showed Mom at that door.
Okay.
And that was it.
Okay. And this is when you saw Summer in the back. How did the melt get rearranged?
I have no idea.
See?
I mean, I could have said I'm there when I got out the car.
That's fine.
But I'm telling you now, I really don't remember anything but talking to her
Got
at
it.
that point.
No problem. What do you think, Miss Allison? How's that melt get rearranged?
I don't know. That milk was there when they pulled up like that.
Okay, but Hunter had the melt in the middle.
In the middle.
And so now the milk's on the other side of Summer. How does that happen?
I don't know.
I don't either, and that's why I'm asking.
I don't even remember how I got out the car. That's the funny part.
That's fine. That's
I
fine.
thought I was totally sitting in the middle the entire time, but I guess not.
Now, did Candace then, let's fast forward.
Mhm.
We'll come back to that later. There's going to be a lot of questions about that, though. I'll give you a heads up, okay? A lot of folks are going to ask about, well, how'd that happen, okay?
Yeah.
So I'm just giving you, a heads up on that, okay?
Now, what I wanted to do was shift his thought process. I wanted him to reevaluate if, in fact, that was the truth. Because what I did is I interjected this idea that people are going to question him. And notice how Allie is now paying attention to me very heavily. She's leaning, toward, like this inquisitive, what did he mean by that? And I did that on purpose because I wanted to lock him in to, well, when you left, where was Summer? I.e., when you got out of the car. And then secondarily, how's the milk get all rearranged? What's going on with that? And Mom didn't know. She started to interject, and then she said, oh, well, that's how that baby was. And he's like, did I get out of the car? Didn't I get out of the car? Well, I really don't remember. Okay. I think he does know. I felt that he knows. And so rather than go down that lane completely yet, I wanted to shift gears. Karen, what are your thoughts so far?
Well, just back to your earlier point about the noise, the dog yelping, Hunter playing with those pop things in his hand, that whatever that little thing was, the cigarette smoke, the background noise. I mean, all of it, I guess we wanted you guys to wanted to bring you exactly where we were. Throughout all the videos we did of our time in Rogersville and Kingsport, certainly when Chris took the video camera and went into the house with Candace, who was kind enough to let Chris come into the home, and Chris goes down into what we do all call the dungeon. You guys, you've come along this whole journey covering this case with us, and these videos, obviously, the sound is tough. It can drive you crazy listening to it, but we feel this interview with Hunter was so important that we're all suffering through the background noise and the crazy stuff going on in order to get him to talk to Chris. So I just wanted to say that, and thank you guys for hanging through this, because it is important as well.
Yeah, well said. And I also want to, reiterate, Hunter got stuck in the middle of this. Something happened somewhere, either the water hole at the house. Those are the two environments that could only be in play here. Hunter got pulled into this by one person, and that is Candace. That's Candace. Miss Robin didn't pull him into it. Don didn't pull him into it. Now, eventually, he got in the middle of this somehow. But that's why I think it's important now that he's 19. Those same people are still out there if you know something. And you can become the hero in this whole thing, Hunter. I believe you can step up, say what you really wanted to say in totality. And I think you can help. I really believe that. And I think your father would be able to guide you through it. And I would be willing to sit down with you like I did with your mother. I'd sit down with you and your father if you give me the opportunity. I've listened to some of the things you've said when your dad did talk to you. And I think it's important, though, because I really believe internally you want to help. You want to help Summer. And I believe you wanted to help her that day that we sat on your porch in Tennessee. Now, whether that can happen or not, that's completely up to you. You're 19 years old. You can make your own decisions. And that is up to you. It's up to nobody else. It's not up to private investigators. It's not up to YouTubers. Nobody controls the narrative but you. And I would just ask you that you would, again, trust me to give you a fair shake. I'll go on the record to believe that you pulled her out of the water. And if that's what happened, which you say it happened, I have no other reason but to believe you at this point. None. In fact, I believe that, back at the house, things got scandalous and you got pulled into it, and that Candace came over to your house, just like you report, and tried to convince you to go otherwise, to go another place. But when the FBI came knocking at your door, you realized, as did your mother and your grandmother, they realized, no, this is big time. And they not only knocked once, but remember you told me they knocked twice. And so you'd given 2 interviews already previously to that. Those interviews are still on record in the law enforcement circles because some are still missing 4 years later. So if you have additional information, we can talk about it.
Just so you know. Okay.
Got you.
Now, straight up though.
Now, see, when I said that about the milk, listen to how he responds. When I said, hey, just to give you a heads up, listen very carefully because very quietly he says, exactly.
Now, did Candace then, let's fast forward.
Mhm.
We'll come back to that later. There's going to be a lot of questions about that, though. I'll give you a heads up, okay? A lot of folks are going to ask about, well, how'd that happen, okay?
Yeah.
So I'm just giving you, a heads up on that, okay? Just so you know, okay?
Got you.
Now,
Right there, did you hear it?
Yeah, he says, I got you.
Yep.
folks are going to ask about, well, how'd that happen, okay?
Yeah.
So I'm just giving you, a heads up on that, okay? Just so you know, Okay.
Got you.
Now, straight up though, from there now, you're here.
Hmm.
When's the next time Candace contacts you?
Around 7:30 that day.
That night. And where were you at that time?
I was over at the park in Bristol with my girl.
Hanging out with your girlfriend.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And what happened? Tell me about that.
So she called me saying that someone's missing.
Okay.
I thought she was pulling a leg because she's known to do that.
Okay. Why would she mess around with her daughter missing though? What struck you about that?
I mean, it's just, we explain how she does when she gets.
Okay, so that's called transferred. Okay. What he did there was he presented this, I believe to be the truth, that Candace calls him 7:00 that night, and look at the grandmother, look at Allie in this particular picture. Okay. And in this situation, he says, he calls me, and then he says to her, to his mom, Allie, will you tell him? That's because he's extremely uncomfortable. That's because his age is, maybe his HD, maybe he's ADHD, which I think he is because of that popper thing. It never stopped. Okay. And this is his safety mechanism to transfer an uncomfortable situation, i.e. jeopardy. Okay. That is a classic move from somebody in the secret life, that there's something more there. And the only way you can get there is you have to kind of stay in that lane for a moment. Okay. And look how I'm looking at him and Grandis is looking at Allie. So the dynamics of this table, this is a critical point for all of us to listen to the response. Okay. All of this is going to be very important to what he's going to say.
Is drunk. She tends to, when she gets drunk and high at the same time.
Yep.
She tends to think that she loses the kids, but they're out front in the yard. That's what I was thinking.
Got it. So this is something that's happened in the past.
No, she hasn't went missing. It's just that she got high and drunk and forgot that Summer was outside.
Got it. Straight up. What did she tell you?
She was like, Summer's missing. So I was just like, okay, well, why don't you just go look outside? She says, I have been. She ain't there. I said, well, call Allie then, because I don't know if she's still pulling a leg. Because if I tell her to call Allie, she'll call me back. And then I'll call Mom and be like, did she tell you this? Or was she just messing around?
Got it.
Okay, so Karen, what's your read on what we just heard there for a second? I want to go back over it again because this is a critical linchpin to where I think this thing can go.
Yeah, and I was looking at Grandbun, which is Allie's grandmother. That's not Hunter's grandmother. Hunter's grandmother is a woman named Sherry. Sherry
Right.
is Allie. Okay, Allie's, I just want to, for people in chat who don't know, Allie is the woman in pink. Her mother's name is Sherry. She's not here at all at this table. Sherry's mom is Grandbun. So this is Hunter's great grandmother. And I was picking up on the looks that Grandbun was sending to Allie as Hunter was speaking, as Chris was asking him the questions about Candace. Candace calls him at 7:30 at night. He's with his girlfriend. They're at a park. Okay. But yet Allie knows what was said on the phone between Candace and Hunter. And to your point, Chris, he's tossing it to his mom as obviously, he doesn't want to deal with it. Deflection. This is always one of the challenges when you don't get to interview one person one-on-one. It's never optimal as a homicide detective or even as a journalist to do these group interviews because it's too easy for them to play off each other and you don't get all the truth. So anyway, that's my thought.
Yep. And so we have an access point here in this conversation. And so basically what's happening is it's causing him stress. Okay. And when an individual gets stressed, especially at 15 or that age, okay, that stress has to go somewhere. And that's what transfer is. Okay. Sometimes if this was a controlled environment, I would have had him, in a much better position where I could see his entire body. I could, watch him, listen to him, and then watch, various things. And usually that stress can come out through the hands, the shaking, and it's coming out through the popping. Okay. And, his feet were moving. They were going 100 miles an hour. He kept looking over at his mom. Okay. And so this was a very stressful time for him because he's now going to somehow fill in the blanks about Candace calling him and saying, Summer is missing. Summer is missing. What do I do? And he tells the mother of a missing child, well, call, and he starts giving her directions. Okay. That doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. Why is Candace calling him to say, hey, Summer's missing. What should I do? And how does he qualify it? Well, she's stoned a lot and she drinks a lot and she's out of her mind a lot. And the kids, basically what he's doing is he projects this image of the entire family being disheveled and completely disorganized and chaos, and that she loses sight of her kids often. Okay. And so he's given her direction. Well, call Allie. I call my mom sitting next to me. Ask her. Okay. Do you guys see why that doesn't make sense for a 15-year-old to tell a 30-year-old something woman whose child is missing?
Well, I also took it that Hunter was trying to decipher on this call with Candace, is Candace high and drunk and does she just lose the kids? Are they around
Exactly.
on the other side of the house, or is this legit?
I agree. But he was surprised by the fact that she's asking him what to do. Okay. And so he's pushing that back, right?
Summer's missing. Summer's missing. So I was just like, okay, bro, why don't you just go look outside?
See, Summer's missing. Okay, well, why can't you go look outside? Now, that's an interesting principle because she's calling from inside the house, maybe? Is she calling from inside the house to say, Summer's missing? Well, at what point did she call him? Were the cops there already? Was the investigation already ongoing? Because we know they weren't inside the house because the law enforcement got there and kept them all outside of the house. I know that for a fact. So he's saying, well, go outside. So did they have a conversation that we don't know more about?
Well, and the time is interesting too, because he says that Candace calls him at 7:30 p.m.
Yeah, right.
Right?
Yep. But is that, and remember, we've also got the 2:00 in the afternoon 911 call where, the dispatcher says, yeah, she said she was going out for a walk.
Was that at 2 or was that at 7?
No, it was earlier. It was between, I think, 2 and 4. I have to go back and look at my notes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this would have been a couple of hours after that 911 call was made.
Correct.
Okay.
I have been. She ain't there. I said, well, call Allie then, because I don't know if she's still pulling a leg. Because if I tell her to call Allie, she'll call me back. And then I'll call mom, be like, did did she tell you this, or was she just messing around?
Got it. So you call your mom
Yeah, I call her on Facebook after she picks up.
and gave her a heads up that
Candace was gonna call.
Candace going to call her and tell her that Summer's missing. Straight up. So at that point, does she call you again? Just that night?
Nah, she called me the next day saying that she's sitting in the police station.
She's sitting in the police station,
Yeah.
and
Now, think about that. Think about the math there. The law enforcement takes her down to the PD, and Candace feels it's important to call him and have a conversation with him. Now, we don't know the totality of what that conversation was. We just have to take it for face value right now that he says the next day she's at the police department and she has the frame of mind to call Hunter. Okay. I think that's really weird. Something's going on there.
what does she say about that?
She says they want to do another polygraph test on me.
Another polygraph?
They want to do another polygraph. That means they've already done one, and now they want to do two. So the first one was probably inconclusive, and they want to do a second one.
Polygraph test?
Yeah.
How many polygraph tests did they do that you know of?
I just know 2.
2?
Yeah.
And how did she do on those polygraphs? Did she tell you?
She did not tell me. She just said she had to do that, and I just ignored her the rest of the time.
Okay.
Okay, you see, he doesn't want to give me that answer. I just ignored her the rest of the time. So that's information that's not solicited. It's filler, it's gap. Okay. And this is going to be significant because at some point, Candace comes over to the house now. Now, mind you, she calls him from the police department and says, they want to give me another polygraph. Why are you telling a 15-year-old this? What's going on with this piece of the puzzle? Okay. And, you know, Hunter's the kind of kid that is thinking about Summer. And of course, they have a family relationship with Don and Candace. But, you know, Andrew doesn't live there. He's in a different state. You know, he's not going to throw his son under the bus. That no father would. So you got to give him credit. And then we get, you know, Allie's sitting there going, okay, well, how far does this go? And what's the exposure level of Hunter? You know, and this is where I go back to Hunter now, who's 19 years old. You hold the keys and you can help. You can help your dad, you can help your family, and more importantly, you can help Hunter. Or excuse me, you can help Summer. And by the way, there's a reward. You can get that too. If you have information that would lead to the arrest and conviction of the individual that hurt her, if that's the case. So those are kind of things that you can contemplate, you know, going forward.
Because they told me not to even get contact of her.
Got it. The police told you don't contact her.
No, the TBI told me.
TBI, don't contact her.
Well, it's some funny crap how they tell me, I'm not dissing them or nothing. I'm just saying how they tell me that I'm going to get my phone that Monday afternoon, and it's been almost 2 months straight now.
Okay.
It's been a month.
Okay.
Now, what's interesting there is he also sees levels of authority. Because when I said the police told you that, i.e. the sheriff's department, he goes, no, the TBI. So in his mind, that's like a bigger deal for them to say, don't contact Candace. Why? Because in his mind, the TBI is much bigger to the Sheriff's Department in Hunter's mind. Because it was the agent from TBI, according to him, who said, don't contact her at all. Don't contact her. Now, we don't know if they put a trap on her phone. We don't know if there's any conversations about that. That could very well be reality. They just didn't get any incriminating information or evidence.
Well, they're just trying to line up your story.
I understand that.
And
It's
that's
just that-
important, right? I mean, you know that
Yeah, it's just that
for Summer.
I gave them all the proof that would line up the story.
I totally agree. Okay. But at the same time, the investigation's fluid.
Yeah. That's
Okay.
facts.
So I know where your heart is for Summer. And so as a result of that, you know, they're going to hold on to that phone and they're going to connect all those dots. And that's the right thing to do, right? Would you agree with that? Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's said now.
Now, the interesting thing here is Allie's nodding her head, and Allie's gone. She's deceased now. So I know a lot of people, you know, believe that, you know, she was holding back, and yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, right? And the whole reason we're having this conversation tonight is because we still believe, and I believed back then, and you just heard me say it. This was 4 years ago. You heard me say you'd want to do this for Summer. And that 15 versus 19 is a whole different game now. Because now, Hunter, you can make your own decisions. And I will treat you with the same respect if you would talk to me about it. And that's a guarantee. And you know that, because you were respectful to me and I was respectful to you. And your mom was, and your grandmother. And you know, I think we can get through that. And I think the yawning, I see folks are talking about the yawning and stuff. Some of that could be deception, but some of that could also, you know, he's releasing stress. And he is also probably ADHD, like we talked about. So it's a stress mechanism to stall, but simultaneously to release. Okay. It's release. It's kind of like when some person is running, right? And you finally get to them and you ask them, you know, well, why were you running away? It takes them a second, and they pretend that they're losing their breath, but what they're really doing is thinking about how they're going to present it to you. Okay. I think some of that is also what's going on with Hunter at that point.
Chris, you know where else we saw the yawning in the police interview?
hear.
Stefan Stearns. Remember that?
Yeah.
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 It's a stall tactic. It's a stall tactic. Mhm.
Yeah. More so than just being, you know, hey, I'm going to lie to you. Because at some point, if they realize they're going to keep lying, okay, then where are they going to go? Lies are just as powerful as the truth in a court of law during a homicide investigation. They're just as powerful.
She contacts you again, says she's at the police station, has to take another polygraph.
And then she shows up the next day.
The next day
Now, you see how significant that was?
He even points for emphasis. She even showed up the next day. Now, to set it, I believe June 15th was a Tuesday. Candace calls him at 7:30. The next day, Wednesday, she's in the police department, and that's when she calls him again. And so this would be Thursday, 2 days after, when she shows up. She even comes by.
Yeah, within 2 days, and Summer is still missing at this point. Now, think about the totality of that. Your daughter is missing from your alleged abduction or property or whatever, and you call the 15-year-old boy, and then you tell him, hey, they're giving me polygraphs. I have to take a second one. And then the next day, she shows up at your house instead of waiting at the house or working with the authorities and saying, okay, here's what's going on with my daughter. I need your help. Most families, most parents will marry the police department because they know you're the only one that can hope, that brings them hope. In this case, she's more concerned about what Hunter may or may not know. And she makes that clear. And by the way, the authorities have her phone and they have his phone. And that's why he's complaining. They took each other's phones. They took both phones. And for the obvious reasons to download all of the information that's coming into this. And so at this point, he thinks it's important to say that Candace came over to the house.
Shows up where?
Here, does you not?
Well, so you were interviewed by TBI on Wednesday. She came here Thursday.
So 2 days after or a day after?
2 days after.
And then what happened when she got here?
She got here. She was like telling me how she talked to them and was like, don't mention about the alcohol, but I didn't mention it.
Did she say?
So she allegedly, lessens the conversation, not about Summer, but don't mention the alcohol.
What she told them?
No, but she started asking me. I just told them what happened on the timeline.
See, did she say what she told them? She goes, no. She started to ask me. So basically, Candace wanted to know what he said to the authorities. Let's listen to that again.
What happened when she got here?
She got here. She was like telling me how she talked to them and was like, don't mention about the alcohol, but I didn't mention it.
Did she say what she told them?
No, but she started asking me. I just told them what happened on the timeline.
And what did she say?
She said, okay, that better be it. I said, you didn't even scare me.
Well, why would she try to scare you?
That's what I'm saying. Why was she trying to even ask questions about it?
See, Hunter knows that in his mind, that was weird.
So, Chris, the first thing Hunter said to you when Candace came over on that Thursday, he said she was, quote, telling me how she talked to them. You followed up and said, did Candace tell you what she told the cops? And he says, no. That's where I think that he's not telling the truth, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. I at that point, right? And when we were sitting there and I'm still refocusing him. I keep going back to refocus him so that, he's got a clarity of understanding of what he's saying. Because again, he's 19 now. And he can say, hopefully he's watching this again and remembering. And hopefully he's, Hunter, if you're watching, I hope you're going to tell the story. I really do.
What's your gut feeling?
See, I wanted him to reflect on his own personal morality, his own personal, empathy towards Summer.
My gut feeling is that she had something to do with it.
Look how he answered that. Listen to how he answered that. Now, take all the stuff we've heard from YouTube, all the stuff we've heard from social media, even the most recent, the burglar coming in, I know your brother tweet and all this other stuff. All of that stuff. This is a kid that sat next to Summer Wells and listened to his response.
Yeah, that better be it. I said, you didn't even scare me.
Well, why would she try to scare you?
That's what I'm saying. Why was she trying to even ask questions about it?
What's your gut feeling?
my gut feeling is that she had something to do with it. But then when all this happened, she just wanted the money in the end because I'm not gonna say names, but one of Red's friends, my girlfriend's mother's friends, was on Beach Creek just riding around, and she seen as soon as someone posted a $25,000 reward, she seen her car, Candace's car, zooming down the road to the Hawkins County Police Station.
Now, I have no idea what he was trying to go, where he was trying to go there, saying that, you know, there's a reward connected somehow to Summer's missing. Because obviously the parents aren't going to collect that reward. But he thinks it's weird enough and suspicious enough that she would come over and try to scare/pressure him into finding out what he told the cops. And the night before, when she had called him from the police station, she also reiterated that, hey, I've taken 2 polygraphs. Right. And the first one, I can tell you, I know the result. She didn't pass. And they attributed it to her stress level and a variety of other things because she was just under the influence and all this other stuff. And then the second one, she said she passed, but I think it's inconclusive. And she's selling soggy donuts to the community, okay, with T-shirts. But Hunter feels there's something scandalous going on here.
So what? What does that mean?
I mean, she supposedly the next day they gave it was on Facebook that it was a tip.
Got it.
I was gonna say, if that was my daughter, I would have everything to do with it. I wouldn't be sitting at the house trying to get money, trying to just collect dust. I'm gonna be sitting there doing everything in my power.
What do you think happened?
Now, see, what's interesting there, he may also be talking about folks started funds for them and they were soliciting money on her disappearance. Because like he said, I wouldn't be at my house sitting on Facebook. I would be out looking for my daughter.
Well, Chris, also, he's taking you to post incident. He's taking you to the days that start all this snowballing effect, the stuff on social media, the funds that may or may not be raised for the family. He's staying away from that Thursday when she came over. And he also makes it sound like Candace came over and basically was potentially threatening him. He's not scared of her. And he makes the whole thing sound like a very short amount of time. We have no idea what actually was said, how long Candace was there, the exchange between Hunter's mom, Allie, and Candace. If Allie was even there at that time, who knows? So there's so much that he hasn't given up yet. And my read of this is I feel like there's kernels of truth in here, but there's a lot of, I don't want to say cover stories because he really doesn't have to do a cover story. I think this whole thing about the money and it's hearsay, some third person allegedly sees Candace's car speed down the street. I think that was just kind of a cover story of something to tell you because he's staying away from what actually may have happened in that exchange at their house on that Thursday.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think he may have even confronted her with what happened to her. You know, and that could have caused, a major blowout. Because at that point, he realizes he may know the whole story. And you and I have felt that from the beginning. That he's going to know the whole story and Josie's going to know the whole story. The oldest boy. Those two,
well, especially Hunter, because as we've said, Hunter was the last person outside of family members to be right next to Summer in the hours leading up to her disappearance. Obviously, that's why TBI wanted his cell phone to download all of his messages, calls, and searches, everything. So it's huge. He's always been huge, but he's always been kind of off to the side, if you will.
Right. And now that the players have kind of, weeded out in the 4 years, Hunter holds the key. And we said this again last night. We said this. I mean, remember when we were talking, when we left, we drove away and we looked at each other and it was like, that kid knows. He knows what's going on, and we wanted to go back and talk to him again. But by then, Mom had flipped the switch and said that, she didn't give consent and all this other stuff. And that's where we had to end up playing the actual uncut version with him and her saying, yes, okay, yes, he can talk to you. And if you guys want to see that, that's in the playlist. This is the uncut interview. Go ahead, Karen.
And by the way, we should fill them in on how we even got this interview to begin with.
Go ahead.
Which
You're the best at
was kind of a stroke of luck. We knew where Allie lived, and we wanted to try to talk to Allie and Hunter. And we literally pulled up in front of their house. Allie and Grandbun were sitting outside at the table, and we came up to them. I remember it was a super hot day. Our windows were down, but our buddy was barking his head off. And we walked up to Allie, introduced ourselves, and said, hey, we'd like to talk with you and Hunter. And we first talked to Allie, and then Hunter was inside the house, and then he came out, and we did this interview.
Yeah, and they were very nice.
They were very nice. They were very nice. They invited us up on their porch. They didn't have to at all. And so, we were grateful that they gave us their time and spoke to us on camera.
Yeah, we bought pizza. Halfway into the interview, Hunter says, I'm hungry. And I said, what, do you want a pizza? And, that was the least we could do, at that time, in terms of their hospitality at that moment. And so we bought them a pizza and those 2 Mountain Dews and all kinds of stuff. And we chit-chatted during lunch, didn't record it. We just were casual. And then we picked it right up after lunch. And it was very respectful across the board. And so now, and even because Miss Leslie had to leave. That's how Hunter came out. Remember, he sat in her chair. And
Yes,
that
that's
interview
right.
was also there where Miss Leslie was in the interview.
And by the way, after this, if you guys want to see those other interviews, the link to our playlist on the Summer Wells case is in the description below. You just click on it and you can scroll through and see all of the videos that we've done, and you'll be able to find it in there.
Yeah. So, so now we're at this place where in this interview here now, if you've just joined us, we got 2,300 people in the with us here. And if you guys would all hit that thumbs up button, because that helps the algorithm move this around, which helps us. We only ask one thing on this channel, and that's you hit the subscribe button and hit that thumb, because that helps us keep helping in these kind of situations. If you would do that, we'd be very, very, very grateful.
In the summer.
To be honest with you, their grandma.
So I want to go back. And I said, so what do you think happened to Summer? Notice I'm not looking at him. Okay. That's a technique. Okay. And he qualifies it by starting, to be honest with you. So what he's saying there, in some parts of our conversation, he has not been 100% honest. Listen carefully.
Be sitting at the house trying to get money, trying to just collect dust. I'm gonna be sitting there doing everything in my power.
What do you think happened to Summer?
To be honest with you, their grandma was out of her mind.
He puts it on Grandma.
Like, you guys, them. I'm not saying you have to. I'm not saying they have to be in the camera.
Understand?
But I'm saying you can ask them that her mother's usually grumpy, controlling, like a regular grandma, like her. I'm not trying to be mean. But you know.
Did grandma do something to Summer? That's now, mind you, he's had conversations with Candace. He hasn't brought Grandis up yet until this was the very first time. He brings the grandmother into the conversation. And how does he qualify it? He qualifies it by saying she's out of her mind. And within a couple of days, she disappears. Grandis is out of the circle. Don writes in his letter, I was out of my mind. That's an interesting thought process in of itself. But for Summer, and in Hunter's mind, he is equating that Summer is in danger because of the crazy grandmother. And guess who's in the car at the water hole? The crazy grandmother, according to him. Who's missing? Her daughter. No trace at all. Gone. MIA. So is he onto something here? I don't know. I just thought that was a fascinating response for a spontaneous response. It was almost instantaneous because he qualified it with, to be honest with you. Okay. Karen, what are your thoughts listening to that?
Yeah, it's he dropped a bombshell.
Yeah.
In my opinion, that's a bombshell.
Yeah, and it's gone over. Everybody's not focused on grandma at all in any way, shape, or form.
And to your point, she's gone from Tennessee. Is that correct?
Right. She left.
Hmm.
Yep. Well, I mean, almost instantaneously. So I pour the dew. I look over and I don't focus on him, and I look at his mom and I say, so what do you think happened to?
I'm gonna be sitting there doing everything in my power.
What do you think happened to Summer?
To be honest with you, her grandma was out of her mind. Like, you guys, them. I'm not saying you have to. I'm not saying they have to be in the camera.
Understand?
But I'm saying you can ask them that her mother's usually grumpy, controlling, like a regular grandma, like her. I'm not trying to be mean. But you know how grandmas can be, like grumpy, controlling, trying to run everything.
What do you think should happen to the person that did this to Summer?
Person that did this,
Yeah.
they should be locked up for a very long time.
Now, you see, that's an honest answer. Folks who have guilty knowledge will try to mitigate their risk. If you listen to what I asked Don, that exact same question, he mitigated his risk in the phone call I had with him. He said, well, they shouldn't be, there has to be, and he circles around guilty knowledge. This kid says, oh, they should be locked up for a long time. It's a technique that law enforcement uses to say, to ask somebody who may have guilty knowledge, it may be them, to say, hey, what do you think should happen to the person that did this? Well, immediately they're going to mitigate their risk because it's them. They're going to go, well, I don't know, if they catch the guy, maybe they, should just arrest him. And you get all kinds of crazy answers. But in this situation, he's coming off of, I'm going to be honest with you, that grandmother's crazy. And he qualifies it by saying, grandmothers can be, controlling, et cetera. And he uses her at the table as the example of that controlling, okay? But he's measuring her against crazy Grandis, i.e. Candace's mom. And so that's why the qualification of what do you think should happen to the person is so significant here, because immediately he goes to punishment.
Trying to run everything.
What do you think should happen to the person that did this to Summer?
Person that did this,
Yeah.
they should be locked up for a very long time.
Why do you say that?
Because I was like, that's like my little sister. And I say that because she's just not the type of girl to.
You see, and he's talking in past tense because that was my little sister. They should be locked up, plural, for a very long time. He knows something.
Go from the swing that's up there.
Okay. Is there anything that I haven't asked you that you think is important that you would want to tell, to get your side of the story out here?
I mean, I would say this, but I don't care if the camera's on or not.
No,
I mean,
the camera's on.
Now, you see, he picked up on me looking at Karen. Watch my eyes. And this is how, don't underestimate Hunter. Watch him.
it can be like grumpy, controlling, trying to run everything.
What do you think should happen to the person that did this to Summer?
Person that did this,
Yeah.
they should be locked up for a very long time.
They should be locked up for a very long time. Not he, not she, they. So Hunter is thinking there's more than one involved in this problem. Okay. And then he picks up on me looking at Karen for a second. And then he responds, I don't care if this camera's on. I didn't ask him anything about the camera. He was reading my body language.
Why do you say that?
Because I was like,
Right there. Did you see me look at Karen? Watch.
Why do you say that?
because I was like, that's like my little sister. And I say that because she's just not the type of girl to go from the swing that's up there.
Okay. Is there anything that I haven't asked you that you think is important that you would want to tell, to get your side of the story out here?
I mean, I would say this, but
Did you see me look at you there?
I did. Shifty
Okay.
eyes for a second.
Yeah, just for a second. And he picks up on it. And watch, he qualifies it with the camera.
Want to tell, to get your side of the story out here?
I mean, I would say this, but I don't care if the camera's on or not.
No.
Right there. I didn't ask about the camera. I looked at you and he picked up on that. And then he qualifies it with, well, I don't care if the camera's on, i.e., I'm going to say what I'm going to say, okay, whether you believe it or not. That's basically the messaging.
No, the camera's on.
I don't really care, to be honest, with the camera. But that the second day she came, she went to the car either to grab something or something, but I grabbed her phone because I wanted to see if she had anything to hide.
Now, you see, this is on the second day, this is the story where he said he went to the phone and he went and he looked through it. Okay. I think he's selling soggy bread here because I think it's a part of the story where he did it previous to that. And there are street smarts going on here. Go ahead.
Well, here's the thing that doesn't add up. If TBI took Hunter's phone and kept it for a month, why would they take Candace's phone and keep it for 24 hours and give it right back to her if
Right.
it was to line up with what Hunter was saying?
Right. But there is something, this interview with H was the most organic. He was holding back. I still believe Summer made it back home alive after the water hole. Okay.
Never
And
made
that
it
was
back
great.
home alive.
Yeah. We appreciate that comment for sure. And thank you for the super chat. Yeah, no, finish your thought again. I just lost my train of thought after reading that.
So you were making the point, Hunter's selling us some soggy bread at this point, because he said, well, when Candace was over here, I grabbed her phone. I wanted to see if she was telling the truth. So I was looking through her messages. My point is, why wouldn't the authorities still have Candace's phone? Because they kept Hunter's phone for a month, according to him. They're not going, if she's one of the prime suspects, they're not going to turn the phone around in 24 hours. They're going to keep it for longer, I would imagine.
Yeah, well, or they're just going to keep put it into evidence, and she got a new one.
Right. So there potentially wouldn't be day of the crime correspondence on there
Or is that
or
the real
data.
phone? Remember up on the mountain, she said she couldn't get cell service, so she threw the phone, indicating that it went into the truck.
And she told you she had two different phones on
Yeah.
two different, like AT&T and then a different one, and I thought that was AT&T and then maybe a burner phone.
Yeah, no, exactly. And exactly. And is this a bottomless pit rabbit hole? It's a rabbit hole if you jump into it and realize it's been filled up with water. But if you get into the rabbit hole and you're on your way out, and then a bunch of people come in behind you and fill it up with water, yes. The advantage that we have at this point is we're only 14 days, maybe, Karen, 13 days.
Something like that. I'd have to go back and look, but yeah, something like that.
Yeah, away from the event. And a lot of what he's saying is very, very spontaneous. Very spontaneous. Okay. Because you would think Candace would have come over almost immediately within 13 days and say, hey, there was a burglar at our house and he took Summer. And how many burglars do you guys know that steal kids? No. This case would have been sexually motivated by a sexual deviant. That's just the way it is. She's 5 years old. You don't come into a house and leave the TV, take the 5-year-old. It's like, take the gun, leave the cannoli.
And not only that, it's treacherous trying to go up that steep, rutted dirt driveway. Not easy to get up at all. And once you're at the top, you're greeted by 8 to 9, a pack of dogs, loud barking dogs. So the chances of anybody sneaking onto that property is so infinitesimal. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, there were at least 13 to 15 dogs. Go watch the interview when we pull up. And Karen's not a big fan of stray dogs. And she's like, I don't know if I want to get out of the car.
I didn't get out of the car. The whole scene. I was like, I'm staying in the car with Buddy with the windows up. I am not getting out of this car. Sorry.
Right. I mean, and by the way, it's just a 1% chance, maybe. Okay. But Candace had control of Summer. There is maybe a 5-minute window, maybe. And she's outside. Candace is, allegedly. So the 2 boys or the 3 boys are in the house. Why didn't the burglar take all 3 of them before Candace got home? Was he waiting for Summer down in the basement? So he had to know Summer Wells was going to be in that basement. And he set up to take her out of that house and vanish with her. How much is a bridge in Brooklyn? How much is that one? Is it for sale?
Like you said, I'm street smart. I'm very observant.
Yes, you are.
Like, I would notice anything. Like, you wouldn't even have to tell me. I still notice the mic on you.
Right. No, I respect that.
It's just how I am. It's just, if you don't leave something on the table, and I know that you probably got something to hide because of the way you're acting.
Yep.
And
see, he thinks she's trying to hide something, and he qualifies that to us. What he really wants to say is, look, let me tell you what really happened. But what he's doing is and look at Mom, look at him in this particular one, because he mentioned the word hide.
Right. And look at the reaction Allie has. Hand into the hair. I mean, I'm not a behavior body language expert by any means, but there's an uncomfortableness going on with her. The looks that she's shooting him, her physical moving around, you can tell there's some agitation going on there.
Yeah. Be careful what you say.
And the way you call me, of course, I'm gonna look through your phone.
Sure.
So she goes through her car, goes on the other side. I act like I'm grabbing my phone because they're just about the same.
Right. So you play it like.
So I put mine where hers was.
Got it.
And so I grabbed her phone. And see, I'm good with tech. I know where everything you can hide is. And so I went through her Google Photos, if that's what you want to call it.
Okay.
The gallery part.
Okay.
And so
Now, it's interesting. He offers the photos is the first place that he went. Why? What's going on with that?
So where you can delete things, they don't just delete, they go to your trash. I don't know if people know that or not, but they go to your trash.
Okay.
I know that because I mess around with tech every day.
Right. You need to go into IT, bro. Right there. Go ahead.
And so when I looked in there, I seen 13 messages between her and her drug. I'm gonna say drug dealer because he is. I mean, I don't
That's Andy.
know if I'm allowed to name his name, but yeah, all I seen was the first message before she started walking up to the mailbox to get up here is that it was done, and I was gonna read the next message of what she said.
It was done. This was always the Mr. Meat, right? What was done? Was there a prearrangement? And this is where all the theories come up about prearrangement, sale. You know, did she owe him money? And was it going to be, you know, a transfer? All these thought processes came when he mentioned something like this.
And she just started running up here, and I literally just slid my phone in my pocket and just put hers there. It's like, she asked me if I went through her phone. I said, no, why? Because
So she leaves her phone on the table. He picks it up, throws his down as if it was hers, goes through his or her phone. She went down to the car. She's coming back and is confronting him now. Did you look at my phone?
cleared it all out before she can get up here.
Did you tell TBI all this?
Yeah, I told him.
Okay.
So TBI knows everything about this.
Second time.
And they told you to keep it quiet on
No,
this piece?
They didn't tell me to really keep anything quiet.
Okay.
It's just that I'm not allowed to go on like lives without her, like international television.
Right. Okay. Yeah, don't lie.
It's
Don't
not
lie.
It's not
No,
my permission.
Yeah, no,
it's
straight up.
hers.
You don't want that, Hunter, right? Because
Yeah.
then everybody's going to put, they're going to put a lot on you. You know what I mean? You don't want that. So what was your gut feeling when you read that it's done?
My gut feeling was that either they had something to do with it.
Who's
or
they?
Her.
Okay.
Or it was all of them together. Like
Her and Andy.
every single one of them in a family.
Where do you think Don was at work that day?
From what I've heard from the TBI, he was not at work.
No, I'm not talking about.
You just heard what he said. From what I heard from the TBI, he was not at work. That's a quote. And look at the mother when he was getting ready to answer that question. She looks up. And she took this to her grave.
Who's
Or
they?
Her.
Okay.
Or it was all of them together. Like every single one of them in a family.
Where do you think Don was at work that day?
From what I've heard from the TBI.
Did you see my response? I looked over at her like, wait a minute. What are you doing?
Vision.
Right. Okay. Yeah, don't lie. Don't lie.
It's not
No,
my permission.
Yeah, no,
it's
straight up.
hers.
You don't want that, Hunter, right? Because
Yeah.
then everybody's going to put, they're going to put a lot on you. You know what I mean? You don't want that. So what was your gut feeling when you read that it's done?
My gut feeling was that either they had something to do with it.
Who's
or
they?
Her.
Okay.
Or it was all of them together. Like every single one of them in a family.
Where do you think Don was at work that day?
From what I've heard from the TBI, he was not at work.
No, I'm not talking about from TBI, what you know.
But what I know is I thought he was at work because I used to work with him. I ain't gonna lie, I used to work with him on houses.
Okay, and what did TBI tell you then at that point?
Well, I was like, I asked him if he was at work.
And what they say?
They said that the people they did not clarify that.
Okay, so they didn't verify it.
Yeah.
Okay,
So that's the Mr. Meat.
it doesn't mean he wasn't. They just didn't verify it, right? Potentially.
No, they called up and asked us if he was.
Why would they want to hurt Summer?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I mean, I really don't because Summer doesn't really do nothing but just like mess around like I do. I like to mess around with people.
Okay.
You see, that's also spontaneous because he didn't know that question was coming. And he answered it almost immediately. That's a truthful answer. That's a truthful response. I have no idea. You know, why do you think they want to hurt Summer? I have no idea. I mean, it wasn't, you know, there wasn't pause. There wasn't, I need to look over. Mom's, you know, glued to the phone. Could she have been, you know, texting Candace? Always possible. Okay. But she's not texting Candace to say, hey, by the way, you know, Hunter's over here talking to Chris right now. Okay. So, you know, that's always a possibility, but she's half engaged. She is engaged. She's listening. She's not listening. I'm more, again, focused 100% on what Hunter has to say. And I'm going to back up and then we're at the end of this.
Well, I was like, I asked him if he was at work.
And what they say?
They said that the people they did not clarify that.
Okay. So they didn't verify it.
Yeah.
Okay. So it doesn't mean he wasn't. They just didn't verify it.
Now I planted that seed on purpose to kind of build a middle ground.
Right. Potentially.
No, they called up and asked us if.
And he corrected me. No, they called up. He told me, no, they called up.
Why would they want to hurt Summer?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I mean, I really don't because Summer doesn't really do nothing but just like mess around like I do. I like to mess around with people.
Okay. Any other things you can think of?
Oh, really?
Have I treated it with respect?
Yeah.
All right. I'm not an old man.
Right. Whoop, hang on for that. Thoughts, ultimate thoughts, Karen.
Well, I think, as I said earlier, he was telling the truth at times. I don't think it was the whole truth. I'm of the opinion that he definitely knows more about this, what happened. And who knows if he's ever going to fully share what he does know. You can tell, I think common sense tells you watching and listening to this interview, he definitely shared some truthful things, but he definitely, I don't want to say covered up because I don't think he has stuff to cover up. He wasn't fully truthful, in my opinion.
What say you guys in the chat? You guys think I agree with your assessment, Karen, and you and I have been talking about this for 4 years with this little girl. We've not, just so everybody knows, the reason we come and go is because I am of the belief that this case is ice cold. And as a result of that, there's, you don't want to go too far out and get in the way because then, crazy things happen. Hunter, if you're listening tonight, I want to offer you as man to man, you're 19 years old now, you can make your own decisions. If you would talk to me again, I would greatly appreciate it. But more importantly, if you talk to me, I want you to talk to Summer. And I want you to tell her what happened. Okay. From your perspective, because I think you know more, pal. It doesn't make you a bad person at all. I think people underestimate you. I have not underestimated you. I won't, but I do believe you have more information. And out of respect for you and your family and your dad, I hope your dad would sit in with us. And we can help. I really believe we can help. And I think you know that. I think you really do know that. And thank you so much, Wendy, for being with us for the past 10 months. We're so grateful. And Henry Dog, thank you. Welcome to the interview room. So we're going to wrap it up tonight. We're about ready to take off to Hawaii. We want to thank all 2,500 of you with us this evening. If you would hit the thumbs up button on the way out, we would greatly appreciate it. Continue to take care of each other. There's more to come in Summer's case. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going to let go. So thoughts, Karen, before we take off to Hawaii?
Yeah, if Hunter knows or if Hunter wants to come talk, that would be a really great thing for this case. I agree with you. It's ice cold. TBI hasn't made any statements publicly. Hawkins County Sheriff's Department hasn't made any statements. And I would urge local media and national media to keep pressing Hawkins County and TBI for updates in the case. It's very true. With media, squeaky wheel definitely gets the grease. And, they can say something about where it is, But of course, that's the official notice. And, they're not going to say anything. They haven't said anything right now. So obviously it's ice cold. And people who have intimate knowledge, it's been 4 years, and the right thing needs to be done. They need to come forward with what they know.
Yep. All right, let's go to Hawaii, guys. Aloha. Continue to take care of each other. Mahalo.
Hard working every day, I'm stressed out 24/7, babe. No timeouts, wish we could fly away. You and I go to our favorite place. Oh yeah, make special memories together. I'll be your company now and forever. I say we fly away, you and me, go to our favorite place. Feeling the sun on my face in Hawaii. With you, Hawaii. With you, Hawaii. With you, Hawaii. I need a summer breeze, some fresh air to put my mind at ease. No cares. You wanna come with me? Me and you go to our favorite tree. Are you ready now? We jump on a plane now. We're taking away. Yeah, we're taking away. Don't hesitate now. We're taking away. Yeah, we're taking away.